Welcome to the Jam Yearbook. I'm Jim.
And I'm Matt.
We're here to take you on a journey through the years as we explore the music in our lifetime and the impact it's had on us and the world we've lived in.
Welcome to version 1971 and the premiere episode of the Jam Yearbook.
Yes. Welcome. Here we are. We aim to take a semi-deep dive into a single year of music, the trends, major events that took place, and an honorable mention to the musical legends and influences that left us in the years we cover. At the end, we will each give our 5 favorite songs from that year.
We also have a Facebook group page called the Jam Yearbook, and each week we'll run a poll to let the audience pick 5 of their own songs. Each week we'll add all the songs together and build a massive playlist with you, the listening audience.
Yes, just look for the Jam Yearbook on Facebook if you want to join that group. There will be some years where choosing 5 songs will be tough, and I saw it as a challenge right away here in 1971.
Yes.
So we add our 5 songs apiece, and the audience adds 5, and we'll start building this playlist up right away. We may occasionally have to allow more than 5, or honorable mentions can slip their way through. We'll find out.
Yes, I will be a big offender with the honorable mentions.
I have no doubt about that. Well, let's start off the show. We're going to play the Grim Reaper every week, and we're going to just honor the people who we lost, huge musical influences, people that had an impact on our lives, people who had an impact just on the fabric of music itself. We're going to start with Duane Allman. Duane Allman was a founding member and leader of the Allman Brothers, but he was also known as one of the best session players in the circuit. He did studio sessions for Wilson Pickett, Aretha Franklin, and he played heavily on the Derek and the Dominos album. You might know him from his epic slide guitar performance at the end of Layla with a piano outro. It's absolutely beautiful. In 2003, Rolling Stone magazine listed him as the number 2 greatest guitar player of all time, behind only Hendrix. The most amazing part of all of this, Matt, he achieved all of this acclaim by the age of 24 when he died tragically in a motorcycle accident.
Yeah, it's a real shame when you think about everything that he could have given us.
Yeah,
if he hadn't
24
left
years
so
old.
soon.
Yeah, crazy.
That's a shame. I'll take us on to Louis Armstrong.
Satchmo.
And it's amazing. Satchmo. It's amazing how you can just say someone's name and it will fill your head with some of the most amazing songs ever recorded.
Mm-hmm.
Louis Armstrong, he does that. Everyone listening now probably has It's a Wonderful World swirling around your head. And I won't blame you if you need to turn us off right now and give it a listen. Just as long as you come back, we'll be here. He passed away at the age of 69 after a pair of heart attacks over several months. I always found something very comforting in that gravelly voice. He sang with such joy, and he never fails to put a smile on my face.
Yeah, my dad was a country music guy, but one of the stories that made me the most jealous of anything in music he experienced was how he saw Louis Armstrong live.
Ooh, wow.
And then there was the Lizard King, Jim Morrison. When I was in college in the early 90s, you couldn't go through a dorm without finding yourself in a room with a poster of Jim Morrison hanging somewhere on the wall. It goes without saying, though, that he and the music of the Doors became a little more polarizing, I would say probably in the past 25 years or so. Matt, I think our generation was probably more fascinated with him than the more recent ones, and his legend has kind of slowed down a bit over the years. I found the Doors when I was probably 11 or 12, and I loved them through my teens. I was a big fan. He was a poet and at times the most enigmatic frontman rock and roll has known. There are too many stories to try to pick one to tell on this show. It would take too long. But he left a certain legacy behind, regardless of how you want to see it. He joined the 27 Club in July of 1971. So there we go. That's enough of playing the Reaper today. We know each episode is going to kind of start off this way. We don't want to depress anybody, so we don't want to hang on to it for too long. Let's get to the music, Matt. That's why we're here. The music of 1971 is how we're starting the show. It's our starting point. There's definitely going to be a lot to talk about today.
Oh, yes. And we figured I'm older. Let's start with the year I was born.
There we go.
Hence, here we go, 1971. And we're not going sequentially. We are going to skip around quite a bit. But you said it all before the Reaper. 1971 is a huge challenge to start with. There are so many singers and groups that are by now considered legendary to our generation.
Mm-hmm.
They are our musical past, present, and future. They will shape our taste in music for the rest of our lives. That being said, though, Jim wasn't around in 1971 and I was just born. So all this music came to us later in life. Until we get to our later teenage years and further down the road, most of the music that gets discussed will be big hits and well-known bands.
Yeah. And also, we should give you all a quick background on us. First of all, Matt, neither one of us claim to be music experts. We might think we are in our head, but we know we're not.
Yes, we will play the music snob asshole from time to time.
Yes, that will come out. We will rear that ugly head. But we have been playing music together, listening to music, or debating music for over 35 years.
Politely, even at times.
Most of the time. But we wanted to bring that conversation to this podcast.
Oh, yeah. Like two guys at a bar talking about what and why they listen to and sharing new stuff they find together. This is going to be a lot of fun.
With exception to the fact that it would be the longest bar in the world, because Matt is sitting in the USA and I am sitting in Scotland, United Kingdom. I've been here for 11 years now, so it gives us some different perspectives with the UK twist. So, okay, here we go. Starting with the music. 1971 doesn't hold many secrets from us. So let's start with the elephant in the room, the big one. 1971 has mammoth albums, but this has really stayed weaved into the fabric of our lives musically. And I'm talking about Led Zeppelin 4. This is the year Stairway arrived. What do you think? Is this the best Zeppelin album, or was it overrated?
Zeppelin is such an important band. I don't think anything they did could be considered overrated. Zeppelin 4, to me, that's their best one. And that's probably because this is the first album I had. Mm-hmm. 2 is considered one of the records that spawned heavy metal, but 4 does it for me. I think the label overrated gets tossed around when it's more fatigue with a group. Hating on Stairway to Heaven feels like it's the cool thing to do as well, where if you just be honest with yourself, sit and listen to that song, you have to be blown away by it. Mm-hmm. And the songs on Led Zeppelin 2, they're just as overplayed as 4. And regardless of where you fall in that debate, both are incredible, and we're lucky to have them in our lives.
Yeah, I'm not going to argue with you. There are still times I hear the solo to Stairway and I get those chills that just come every single time.
Oh, no doubt.
Yeah, Jimmy Page's tone is incredible. But I also love the sound of the drums on that song and how Bonham uses fills and syncopations with the rhythm guitar and the bass. In my opinion, Rock and Roll is the overplayed song because every bar band in the world plays it. Yeah. Stairway gets talked about the most. And that says something special about the song right there. But let's not forget Going to California, acoustic Zepp at their best.
Hell yeah. It's songs like Going to California and Battle of Evermore that make me appreciative of 4. There's more texture and variety compared to 2. That's not putting down 2 at all. That album rocks. And having been in a band that's played, or more than one band that's played rock and roll, yeah, you can almost hear the eye rolls in the audience.
It's a sound check song. It really is. That's it. That's all it should serve anymore. Yep. Okay. So it's your turn. I brought Zeppelin 4 to the table. Let's get that over and done with. What else rocked your boat from 1971?
I would say for rock, there's got to be 3 more big ones. The Who, Who's Next, the Rolling Stones, Sticky Fingers, and Black Sabbath's Master of Reality. These are some of the most influential rock bands of all time, and they have some of the most influential musicians of all time. For me, if I was going to start a band in 1971, I would probably take that core 3 of Townsend, Moon, and Entwistle from The Who. And that's just me personally. Singer would be harder, but I don't know if I could hear anybody but Daltrey sing with those 3. And I have to admit, The Who probably has a lot less fatigue with me. Mm-hmm. The music's great, and they are their own thing. I don't think I've ever heard someone compare another band to The Who, but you always hear comparisons to, oh, this band sounds like the Stones. Oh my God, they listen to too much Black Sabbath or Zeppelin. Yep. But if you listen to the live albums, in my opinion, The Who out-rocks all of them. Mm-hmm. Who's Next is phenomenal. Give me a few more years of listening to it, and I may change my mind, but it really is evergreen to me. The production on it doesn't make it sound dated. Baba O'Reilly out of the gates sets an atmosphere with a synthesizer and builds into an amazing, almost theatrical song. that's like the first climb on a roller coaster. Then Bargain is that first drop, and it's all excitement. By the time Going Mobile and Behind Blue Eyes come on, you think the ride is ending, but then Won't Get Fooled Again ends the record on such a high note. You just want to get back in line. And both songs at the beginning and end, the bookmarks, you can almost play this album in an endless loop.
Yeah, no, I agree with everything you say about that album. It's fantastic. But let me get this straight. So if you're starting a band, you're basically going to assemble the Who. I'll give some consideration to Moon and Twistle, but Pete Townsend isn't even going to crack my top 5.
Ooh, those could be fighting words to certain people I know. And I said may take Daltrey. It would be hard to imagine another singer with them. Pete could always just do it as well, make a 3-piece. And I'm just talking those 4 bands. My defense of Townsend is I think his overall creativity wins for him. I think my choices have more to do, again, with less fatigue. And the last I knew, his music wasn't accused of ripping off others like Zeppelin.
Well, that's true.
So in Ozzy, love him. He is one of the most cherished voices in my life, but he's not the most creative vocally. He can kind of tend to sing the root. Plant's great. He's awesome. But in my man, I am not putting up with those lyrics at all. And I don't love enough.
The Lord of the Rings.
Exactly. That I'm not putting up with that. And I don't love enough of Jagger's work. Again, we are not Stones fans, but I could swap him in since you obviously think the Who is a shit band. So
no, that's not true.
I know. It all depends on the kind of band you want too. Keith Moon is not going to lay down the tight beat. He's going to bash the shit out of everything. Play the drums like they are the lead singer. That's what he does, but he still manages to hold it all together. Entwistle, there is no bargain there. He's a must for me being a bass player. I love everything that he adds to the music. So if I only can have one from each, I guess I'll go Entwistle, Bonham, Jagger. And I think with that combination, I kind of want to see what Tommy Iommi can do.
Okay.
That would be I should have put more thought into this. This is a good experiment. So who are you going to take?
Well, you know, what's interesting is that Rolling Stone magazine at one point did a breakdown of greatest guitar players, greatest drummers, greatest frontmen, greatest bass players. And they had an audience poll assemble the greatest rock band of all time.
Oh, yeah.
And in doing so, they actually created Led Zeppelin.
See,
they were all the winners.
Created the Who.
They just created the Who. You know, I would say this. I don't really know. From 1971, we've got 50 years of music ahead of us before I think I'm going to make that choice. I don't even know if Roger Daltrey is going to be in my top 10.
Over 50 years, probably not. I was going on 71 in 4 bands.
Okay.
Yeah. And I'm talking rock now. If we're going to get into R&B, soul, funk, pop, that's going to be a hard inner debate right there after 50 years of music. And you know, I'm prone to hyperbole, right? That's great. Or that sucks, which is a flaw. I'm in one of many I'm eager to work on over the course of this show.
Tell you what, when we get to the end of this show, we know we're doing the Jam Yearbook. We only have so many years in our lives. So there's going to be only so many episodes of this. Eventually we're going to be able to do. Let's flip a coin and we'll draft our dream band. Someone gets to go first. Last episode, after covering our 50 plus years of our lives, I'd be interested to see if you put anybody in that band you spoke about in this very first episode.
It's a deal. That sounds really interesting. We're going to go 4 or 5 pieces. I'm not drafting a whole E Street ensemble. That's nuts.
How about you can pick up to 6 pieces? We'll do 6 pieces. Any instrumentation you want.
Okay, it's on. Final episode. But no DJs.
No DJs.
Because we are not going new metal.
No. But what if I want a rapper? You know, not just a
no, because if you just want to, well, I guess you get the Gorillas then, right?
Yeah, or something like that.
Okay, yeah. See, this is tricky. This is awesome. It's gonna and my choices are gonna change from day to day.
All right, let's get back to the music. 2 albums that were released by members of the 27 Club came out in 1971. We had Janis Joplin, who had died in 1970, but this was her second solo album. Me and Bobby McGee. It became an instant classic. It was written by Chris Christopherson, respectfully, she owned that song on record.
Oh yeah, that's her song now.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Move Over, Mercedes-Benz, and the epicness of Crybaby cemented her place, if it wasn't already there, in music history. We spoke about Jim Morrison earlier, and LA Woman came out in, I think it was April of 1971, and this was a big return to form for them. I don't think he was really interested in coming back from France after this to make more albums. Yeah, I'm reading the narrative of his life from books and from films, but that's how it kind of appeared. So this could have been their final record as it is. But you had Riders on the Storm, Love Her Madly, and LA Woman are three of their most well-remembered songs. But I also recommend checking out Cars Hiss By My Window. The Doors could get bluesy. I like that tune.
Yeah, I am the more casual Doors fan between the two of us, but I have to say they made some of the best sounding records. The
Mhm.
70s in general had just had a better way of recording and mixing albums.
Yep.
They allowed for separation of instruments and leaving space for songs to breathe. That's really a lost art compared to a lot of the new music that I've heard. I missed how real the instruments used to sound on these older recordings too.
Yeah. And one of the things I'm looking forward to in doing this show is talking about the albums that got lesser attention back during that time, or might have gotten absorbed into the time period that we're going to discover when we look back.
Oh, and I am 100% on board with that. My vision for our show is to, yes, celebrate the music that's popular and everybody loves, but I want to explore unknown music, or at least things that might be unknown to me, and shine a little light on bands or songs that may have been forgotten. Neither of us want this to turn into an oral report equivalent of classic rock radio,
No.
and not at all. And I love trying to find hidden gems.
Today in rock music history. No, that's not what this is going to be.
Exactly. No, exactly. We don't plan on being a textbook.
No, not at all. So I'm going to start here. There's one person I'm going to bring up that I think has kind of been perceived as a crotchety old man by our generation. And he's not somebody I have been very familiar with in my lifetime. And that's David Crosby and his solo album that he released in 1971. If I Could Only Remember My Name. I'd never heard of this album
He just looks like that grumpy neighbor
he does,
yelling at you to get off his lawn.
Yes. He this album was recommended to me about 6 months ago. Like I said, I'd never heard it before. Obviously, all of the Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young guys have had good solo careers, and I knew of him and I knew a lot of their music, but I definitely went with the crowd and spent most of my life finding Neil Young as my music of choice to listen to from that group. And I was a super fan of his for a while. And I'll admit there was always a little something about David Crosby's personality we're talking about that kind of rubbed me the wrong way. I just think this album sonically sounds beautiful. I think it's one of the finest sounding acoustic albums I've ever heard. Just the tone, the way it's captured. You like to talk a lot about separation of instruments. It sounds amazing. And the guest list on the album is so impressive. You have Joni Mitchell. Of course, you have Graham Nash showing up and Neil Young. But there's even Jerry Garcia appearing on it. They were buddies. And Matt, I know from our long history of being friends, you love bands with great harmonies. You're a harmony guy.
Definitely.
This album is rich with them. Check out Love Is Love. It sounds so good. The album actually got terrible reviews when it was released. It's funny. I kind of went back and I was looking at the reviews of them and prepping for the show, trying to find sound points and maybe rip somebody off. And all I found was 2 stars. And, some people say, yeah.
It's not ripping it off. It's helping you frame your own opinion.
Oh, I understand.
Or reinforcing it, right? Putting
Reinforcing. That's what we'll say.
Yeah.
It could have been his reputation. And that's what kind of precursored the album in the reviews. But it did gain a cult status. And over the years, it's gotten a lot more respect retrospectively.
You first told me about this months ago. I wasn't on board with it, but I've had that opinion of most Crosby, Stills, and Nash related music. I needed this one to marinate for a little bit. The songs still don't speak to me, but you're right about the harmonies and the sound on the record. I'm a sucker for some rich layered harmonies.
Mhm.
It wasn't just the Doors making great sounding music. You can hear everything, but everything still sounds like they're almost completely generating this off the cuff. This sounds very improvisational, especially some of the singing. And
Yeah.
it's just not that over compressed brick where everything is fighting to be in your face at 11.
Mhm.
One of the more overused tidbits for Neil Young is being the godfather of grunge, but I hear some of that on this album too.
Yeah, I
If you go
can.
back and listen to like Alice in Chains, Sap, maybe even a little bit, if you were to rein in Temple of the Dog a little bit.
Okay. No, that's a great comparison. I'm gonna actually kind of check that out and see if I hear that now. Apart from David Crosby, there are so many big names to mention. We could probably go on all day about 1971, but some who are going to have a big impact on the next decade, we can't ignore. We had James Taylor. Rod Stewart released his final group album with Faces, and his solo career began with Maggie May. I mean, what a way to start.
Oh, yeah, the 70s were very friendly to folk rock singer songwriters. Aside from James Taylor, you had Simon and Garfunkel. They released their final album, Bridge Over Troubled Water,
Mhm.
with some of their most well-known songs. The band America debuted. They had hits with Horse with No Name and I
Yeah.
Need You.
Yeah.
They were just starting and they were going to have, the next 4, 5, 6 years of releasing hits.
Mhm.
Don McLean's American Pie. The Recording Industry Association of America put out a list of songs of the century back in 2001. American Pie was number 5. This is
Wow.
one of the most recognizable melodies of all time. And I never realized it was 8 minutes long either. I always just put it on and let it play. And this is a solid 8 minutes of him singing. There's no big instrumental moment. And before Taylor Swift's All Too Well, American Pie held the record for the longest runtime of a number one song.
Yeah, I love American Pie. Always liked it as a kid growing up and made a point to learn all the words to it. I probably by the time I was like 12 years old. But then if you've been into rock and roll and you love rock history like you and I do, it's a great allegory of rock history. And
Yes.
I'm not going to get into it right now, but I recommend to the audience, if you don't know what American Pie is really about, go Google it, look it up. It's really cool to see what people think that this song's written about, because it's really a history of rock and roll from Buddy Holly up through this period in 1971.
And we haven't even scratched the surface on everything that was around. We wouldn't do 1971 justice without talking about all the incredible R&B and soul.
Yep.
Marvin Gaye came out with his most mature record, What's Going On. It's probably not thought of as a concept album, but it is. The songs blend from one to the next. They take on important social issues such as poverty, drug abuse, and it's told from the point of view of a returning Vietnam veteran.
I never knew that.
And once you kind of have that in your brain, the songs definitely take on a new meaning.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I mean, even just the title, What's Going On, I can see somebody coming back
Yeah.
from war and wanting to
And
see
when he
what's
sings
happening.
brother, brother,
Yeah.
right? There's too many of us dying. What's
Yeah.
going on?
Yeah.
Bill Withers, Ain't No Sunshine, absolutely tears at my heart with that performance. Fans of the hip hop song No Diggity, listen to Grandma's Hand to hear where they sampled that
Mhm.
from. Oh, but yeah, Bill Withers, he is a treasure. I love him. And Ike and Tina Turner's Nuff Said album. This album is full of blistering tracks. They released a live album as well. They recorded at Carnegie Hall. I never thought the energy of a live performance could be duplicated on a studio, but Enough Said does just that. This is such an exciting album.
Yeah.
And then there's Al Green. He could always deliver the goods. You're kind of a flip side of Ike and Tina, right? He's so smooth, but whatever he sings, it's just fire. I love his song Tired of Being Alone. I love how the horns come in, they add their exclamations, they retreat. It adds to the impact of the song, as we're talking about the space and how everything sounds so much more real. It just goes back to songs need room to breathe.
Yes. Yep.
And then 1971 was also the year after the Beatles broke up. Maybe this had a hand in some other things getting a chance to thrive.
That's true. Yeah.
And members were releasing solo albums. McCartney's Ram, well, it isn't a masterpiece, but I think it's totally underrated. You don't have to be a super fan to find something to enjoy on there. But Lennon did write the masterpiece with Imagine.
Oh yeah, that's a great album. And just to throw it out there, Jealous Guy off
Mm,
Imagine is another one of my favorite
definitely.
tunes from the Fab Four. And let's not forget, we also had Cher, Gypsies, Tramps, and Thieves. And come on, we got John Denver.
Oh yeah, how did we not bring him up when we were talking about singer-songwriters? Geez, we could do a separate show for every genre that we have, and we haven't even mentioned country
That's right.
that was
Yeah.
around in 71.
Yeah.
The Willies and the Merles and all
Yep.
of those.
Yep. I did search through country, but I didn't find anything that had classically impacted my listening. There were some songs that came out in 1970 that I got fooled on. So I was going to come here and talk about Coal Miner's Daughter. I was going to talk about Rose Garden, but those came out in 1970. They were just big hits in 1971. And that's unfortunately what we're going to try to avoid when we're looking at charts.
Yeah, and when I saw the names, I'm like, oh, this is going to be good. But I think the standout maybe have been Coat of Many Colors by Dolly Parton. And even that's probably not one of my top 10 Dolly songs.
I agree. I think that's probably it. Yep. But you know what's amazing? All of these artists found success in this time period with an incredible amount of individuality and not being tied into sounding like a sound, like what happens today in music.
Oh, yeah. And all these different sounds and genres, they're getting their own moment in a spotlight.
Yeah.
There doesn't seem to be that one thing that takes up too much of everybody's attention.
No. It's amazing.
Oh. And this is where we really need to cut ourselves off because we could literally keep going, but eventually we need to stop and unveil our 5 songs for the year. Whoever chose the year will get the honors of leading us off. I'm sure we'll lose track and have that, I don't know, what do you want to eat discussion? But most times that's going to be fueled by the third member of the show, Beer. Say hi to Beer, everybody.
Beer.
Little vitamin G.
Little vitamin G. Matt, we actually decided that you would go first since it's 1971 and it's the year you were born.
Yeah,
so
it counts as my choice.
Start off the show. Yeah. So why don't you tell us what your first song is?
The first song is Superstar by the Carpenters.
Nice.
If I don't get in the Carpenters right off, I'll run out of chances to add them to my 5. The competition for the 70s is going to be that strong. I heard the Carpenters before any of the big rock bands we talked about earlier. They take part in some of my earliest musical memories. And I feel like Karen Carpenter is one of the first people that taught me how to sing. From her pitch, her control, and the way her voice danced around in songs. She didn't stay on a note. I didn't know I was learning about harmonies while listening to this kind of music. I just loved the way they sounded, and I would listen to them over and over, just trying to learn how to sing the different parts.
Yeah, the Carpenters were definitely one of a kind. And Karen Carpenter, 100%. This song, Superstar, Rainy Days and Mondays, came off the album that came out that year. Just to be honest with you, when we were talking about doing this show and I started researching my 5, for some reason, I knew you'd bring a Carpenter song to the 5.
Oh,
so
really?
I laid off, and I'm glad you brought Superstar. It's great. She really was one of the most unique, most pure singers I think I've ever heard in my life. And if you ever want to go see somebody who can really play a kit amazingly, Karen Carpenter was also a fantastic drummer.
Yes,
so,
she was.
Yeah, she was incredible. So, all right, is it my turn to go? My first song.
It is your first song.
All right, I am going to start with maybe one of the coolest guys in rock and roll. Well, we're going to start with this band, the James Gang, and the song's called Walk Away. The James Gang had actually been around. They'd established and gone through several lineups before Joe Walsh joined them. And before he made the Eagles cool, Joe Walsh made the James Gang cool. The addition of Walsh would lead them to their highest level of success before he went on to pursue a solo career by the end of 1971. And this was before he went and met up with the Eagles. But wow, did the James Gang sound great together. It's a wonder how the music landscape would have been if Walsh hadn't left that band, if we'd never had his presence in the Eagles. This song here, Walk Away, has his signature guitar parts, but I also really like the rhythm section, the drum fills that go on. It's really incredibly tight. So I'm going to start here because I want people to hear more from Joe Walsh and James Gang than just Funk 49.
Joe Walsh is not the flashiest of guitarists, and he doesn't have to be. He has it. Whatever it is that makes a person cool, Joe Walsh has it.
Yeah, he does.
He writes some of the most amazing, memorable guitar riffs,
Yep.
and he understands that you don't need to be in everybody's face. You just got to lay down something really cool and give it space to breathe.
Yeah. No. Good. All right. So that's my first song. It's time for your second song, Matt. What's it going to be?
We forgot about him earlier when we were talking about folk, but you brought him in, and I'm going to keep going with them in my 5. John Denver and Sunshine on My Shoulder.
Mm.
This is the male side of that Karen Carpenter coin. John Denver was a huge AM radio voice I heard a ton of, and I've always loved the sentiment in this song. It's just stayed with me throughout my entire life.
Yeah, there we go. A little John Denver respect. Thank you very much. Both this and Country Roads Take Me Home from the same album. There's something that was just so soothing about his music.
Oh, trust me, I switched those songs out a dozen times. John Denver, he deserves respect. I sometimes feel like he doesn't get the recognition he deserves, maybe because his music might seem a little hokey, but he has so many songs I can't live without.
I have a feeling that in our first poll of the listeners, there's a good chance that Take Me Home Country Roads will still get voted into the 5. So
hope so.
We'll see. All right.
What is yours?
My second song is David Bowie's Life on Mars. I'm probably going to talk about Bowie a few times over the course of this show. You know, I'm a fan. I thought before we started researching for this show that Bowie kind of began with Ziggy Stardust. Man, was I wrong. It's funny to be a big fan and kind of get your years out of sync. And then just going back and looking before this show, I realized, wait a minute, I thought Hunky Dory was out after Ziggy Stardust, but that's not the way it went down.
No, and it's amazing how when somebody skirts around different sounds, how it screws around with your inner timeline.
Oh, it absolutely does. And this did. And there are artists that transcend the time. And then there are the songs that transcend the artists. Everything in the Beatles catalog might be legendary, but for some reason, Across the Universe transcends all of their other songs, in my opinion. Life on Mars does this for Bowie and his life's work. Lyrically and melodically, it is a masterpiece. More people are probably familiar with Changes from the albums, and also the song Quicksand has some powerful lyrics, but Life on Mars, there's just some unmatched beauty that it holds. And I'm a Ziggy fan who'll gush over that when we get to next year, 1972. But this is the song where I want to begin with Bowie.
Bowie appreciation has been a lifelong journey for me. You are definitely the fan. And I found that immersion helps me understand him better. I can't just listen to a song here or a song there. I don't think you get the full scope of what he does. My first exposure to him was the Thin White Duke era, and that kind of set a certain expectation level from me. I found some moments on this song that hooked me in, and he properly doesn't overuse them. So it leaves you waiting and wanting more. So you have to start the song over in order to get those moments. You know, I love the ebb and flow on this. It allows for appreciation of those high points.
Yep.
And you're the Bowie guy, and conversations we've had over the years, they've helped me get a better understanding of him.
That's good. Good stuff. All right. What is your third song going to be then?
It's time to pick up the pace a little bit. We're going Deep Purple and Fireball.
Yeah.
Fireball absolutely kills. Ian Pisce's drums take over the song and they just lead the way. Remember at the beginning when we're talking about remembering other bands, not just the Led Zeppelins of the world? Deep Purple is so much more than Smoke on the Water. For me, Fireball is pure adrenaline. This is a must own on vinyl for me.
Yeah. Probably one of the most underrated bands of the era. I think they were just surrounded by all of these other bands that drew more attention to themselves. They didn't have the glam of Zeppelin, you know, the flowing locks of Robert Plant on stage and his presence, or the stage show of the Who smashing up all of their instruments, because there was more you talked about with those bands than just the music. But when it came to Deep Purple and fans of Deep Purple, it was all about the music and it rocked just as hard.
Yes, it's serious people making serious music.
Yeah, it's great to see you give them some respect here.
All right. What is your next song?
My next song is going to be, well, not quite a rocking song, but it's kind of cool. It's Harry Nilsson's Coconut. I should say coconut. That's what I should say.
You put the lime in the coconut, you drink them both
We're
up.
gonna have a sing along. Hey,
Get used to that.
yeah, that'll probably happen a few times over the show. Hey, look, I'm not going to spend every episode trying to find or act like I only want to have profound moments of music here. Sometimes music just has to be fun. And Harry Nilsson knew this very well. There probably isn't much special I can say about the music, but this is the kind of song that the entire family can get up and dance to together. Is it a novelty? Sure. But it's the best type.
Oh yeah, definitely. Nilsson, he knew how to write playful, intricate music. You may not think a song with only one guitar chord is intricate, but there's a lot going on in this song. That one chord is the canvas, and he just keeps adding more and more layers to it and
Yeah.
textures. It's a fun song. And yeah, novelty songs aren't all bad. They
No,
don't all get tired.
no. All right. So your fourth selection, what are you bringing to the playlist?
I'm going to bring a little Yes and Roundabout. Yes and Prague in general will not get a ton of love on this show. It's not really something that Jim and I dig on overly. They do, however, have a handful of songs that are catchy enough to get stuck in my head.
Yep.
I don't feel like I'm just listening to scales being played over and over and over on this one. And I absolutely love Chris Squire's bass sound, and you can hear it so clearly in Roundabout. I don't mind the 8 minutes it takes to hear every single note.
Now, here's a song that's 8 minutes long that I didn't realize was 8 minutes long. And it's not full of lyrics from beginning to end. It's full of really cool, interesting music. And you're right. You know, I'm not a huge prog guy, but if the song does it right, I have no problem with it. And this is the type of song that does that. It's a great song. I get in trouble over here because I lived in a little Scottish city called Dundee for 4 years, where roundabouts are called circles. If you're giving somebody directions, you don't say, oh, you go down to the roundabout. You say, oh, you go down to the circle. And then I moved to the next city and I couldn't break that habit. And I kept getting funny looks because it's one of those local linguistic things where only Dundee calls it a circle. So look, this has nothing to do with music, but you know what the song is about if you've been around enough circles.
All right, that wraps up my fourth. Where are you going to take us for yours?
All right, for my fourth, I'm going to take us to Joni Mitchell and the song A Case of You. It's taken me a long time to fully appreciate Joni Mitchell. I don't know if I'm quite there yet, but when I was prepping for the show and listening to music, this song gave me quite the moment of pause. Her guitar playing is exquisite. And the lyrics are like words, in my opinion, they're like painted on a canvas. And the vocal melody is just innocent, unique truth. I know a lot of musicians who I hold a lot of esteem for that we're going to talk about in later years really love Joni Mitchell. One of your favorite artists of all time, Prince, is a massive Joni Mitchell fan. And when I listened to this song this week and preparing for the show, there was part of me that could hear her influence on him. In the future, listening to more of Joni Mitchell isn't something I'm going to force on myself, but I'm going to try to find those moments at the right time to listen to her speak to me. Blue is considered one of the greatest albums of all time. And I want to keep exploring it so I can know what other people are hearing.
I completely agree with what you're saying. I keep trying and hoping I'm going to get Joni Mitchell because this is completely on me. You're right about her guitar playing and her vocals. But what she does is she has this guitar part and this absolutely beautiful vocal that don't sound like they should go together.
Mm-hmm.
But when you put them together, it's like it just all flows so effortlessly. She just makes it work. And to me, this is next level talent. Yep. Hence me saying, not getting her is all on me. She does not have easy, catchy singing melodies that are one of my gateways into enjoying music.
We're sing-along guys. Yeah,
exactly. So that's why it's hard for me to concentrate. And I usually miss what's going on in the lyrics. But in her case, her lyrics, they're poetry.
Yeah, I would say with Joni Mitchell, part of what it comes down to for me is when it goes to that really high soprano and learning how
Mm,
to accept that, because that's the one part of the music that she's bringing to us that I would say I'm not the most drawn to, but I think what I need to learn is where that finds its space within the gaps of the songs and what she's writing, because it's not like she takes that voice on and sings an entire song in the falsetto. She finds a way to peak it in certain areas.
mhm.
And what I want to do in listening to her music in the future is see what the, I don't want to use the term consistency because I'm sure she's not generic, but how she uses that to kind of landscape her songs. Or if not, maybe it's people who love, kind of like jam music and jazz, and the way her vocal fluctuates up and down and shifts between those spaces. People who really like music that goes to moments of that you're not expecting, that's why they
Yeah,
love
because she's
this.
playing an arpeggioed guitar part too. She's not just strumming
Yeah.
chords all over the
No,
place
yeah.
and making her vocal melody fit into a song. She's got it's like a drummer. She's got two totally different pacings going on between the vocal and the guitar,
Yeah.
and they're everything's in the same key, but they're not on the same notes.
No, they're not. They're not.
She's very this is one where I can't write her off at all, because what I think when I finally get it, I'm gonna fall in love with it,
Mhm.
because yeah, she is definitely next level talent.
Go back and give it that Prince
Oh,
identity
you
that
can
I
hear it when
yeah,
she hits those high notes that
yeah.
you're talking about. I
But
can definitely hear
but
that's where some of Prince's influence can be.
but I even hear it in some of her delivery of how she's singing the lyrics and telling the story within the song at the same time. There's
Okay.
a cadence to it that I hear. There's a similarity between what she does and how it influenced him. So check that out.
Oh yeah. So spoiler alert, you'll probably hear a lot about Prince from me as the show goes on.
Oh, there are a few bands that we both really like.
Yeah.
They're going to hear a lot
Yeah.
of. We already warned them about Bowie, but we'll
Yep.
see. We'll see how that goes. All right. So on to
It's
your
time for
last
my final
song.
song.
Yeah, your final song for
Okay.
1971.
I'm going to end my five with Ike and Tina Turner, Baby, What You Want Me to Do.
Oh yeah.
I could not finish my five without bringing some kind of R&B or soul. Tina Turner deserves to be on a pedestal. Her voice and performance ability set her so far apart from everybody else. Baby, What You Want Me to Do shows she can rival Aretha Franklin. And Jim and I, just so you know, we think Aretha's the queen,
Yes.
right? Tina just rocks.
Yeah, she does.
There are moments in the song that make me think that she is the female version of James Brown.
Oh yeah.
Oh, she's got those little and things going on where it's like, oh, that's so James Brown.
Mhm.
And this song, just so you know how music is within her, it's in her family. Her older sister, Aline Bullock, wrote this song.
Yeah. It's a great song. What can you say about Ike and Tina Turner and the albums that they released? Tina
Oh,
Turner is an absolute worshipped legend here in Scotland. Every single DJ night at a pub. So if you're at a pub and people are up dancing, having a good time, they almost always end it with Proud Mary. And it's
much respect.
yeah,
That kills. That kicks ass.
and it's funny to watch all these drunk people come slinking out onto the dance floor during the slow
Because the
part.
beginning of that song can let you slink out to this
and
song,
then when it kicks in, it's just all these drunk people stamping their feet on the
flailing
floor.
around.
Yeah, it's amazing. And
Yeah.
yeah, Tina Turner really inspires people to get up and dance here in Scotland.
And I realize that this is probably a very unknown song, and people of our generation's memory of Tina Turner is probably more Private Dancer, the Mad Max song, We
Oh
Don't Need
yeah.
Another Hero.
Oh yeah.
But go back.
Simply the best.
Yeah,
Yep,
exactly.
yep.
But there was such a difference between what she did in the 80s than what she was doing in the 60s and 70s.
Oh, she was subdued in that 80s stuff.
Oh,
Yeah.
God, yeah. Yeah, go back and listen to what she was doing early on. Oh, it's incredible.
It is.
All right, Jim, how are you going to finish your five?
I am going to finish my 5 with another one of the greatest, most influential female artists of all time. And that is Carole King and the song I Feel the Earth Move. Tapestry is a top 5 all-time album for me. Will You Still Love Me? So Far Away. The best version of You've Got a Friend. No offense, James Taylor fans, but she wrote it. It's Too Late. How do you pick the best song off that album? You know, track 1, I Feel the Earth Move. It has all the signature aspects of Carole King's songs that she's already written. She had a hand in writing Take Good Care of My Baby, Up on the Roof, One Fine Day, You Make Me Feel Like a Natural Woman. And you might know this, you might not, but little Eva was her babysitter, and she wrote Locomotion when she was like 10 years old for little
no
Eva.
way.
Yeah.
Oh,
So these are just some of the songs that she ended up writing. And then she became part of that legendary writing staff at the Brill Building in New York City. There's a documentary that has an episode about the Brill Building. I recommend checking that out on Netflix. It's all right here in this song, all of that she, you know, encapsulated over all of those years, the groove, the playfulness, and the melody floating over the top. She never repeated the success of Tapestry, but the album's so damn good, it couldn't be topped.
no. And you're right. How do you pick a song off this?
Yeah.
This thing's a greatest hits. You couldn't go wrong with any of them.
That's why I mentioned them all.
Honorable mentions, baby. Bring them out. Yeah. This album starts out with that powerful piano piece on this song, and it makes a statement. It sets your ear on edge. It says, hey, pay attention to me. And I checked with my brother, Mark,
Mhm.
because I was curious if Ben Folds had ever covered this. I want him to do this entire album.
That'd be amazing.
That would be
Yeah,
amazing.
that'd be great. Yep.
He might be the only one that could even come close to doing it justice. But
He-
you're right. This is a phenomenal album.
Yeah, love it. Love it. So there we go.
And that wraps up the inaugural episode of the Jam Yearbook.
It does. So
Our 5 are in the books.
our 5 are in the books, and yeah, what a great first episode. Thanks a lot, anybody who's made it to this point. We're really happy that you stuck with us, because what we're going to do at this point is announce the next year that we go to. And I think it's my turn, isn't it?
Drum roll. Well, I chose 71. So
Yeah.
that would mean if we're taking turns, because there's no way to declare a winner.
I'll go right ahead.
you go right
Yes,
ahead. Drum roll, please.
We are going to go to 1986 next.
Oh, you devil, you.
Yeah. Why don't we
The
just
80s are going to be hard years.
Yeah,
as well.
why don't we just jump the shark straight away?
Wow, yeah.
all the way to 1986, and we'll find out what's going on in the world of music then. And after 86, we'll move around to different years. But yeah, it's a lot of fun to do this, and we look forward to seeing what the 5 songs are that the audience will add to the playlist. The playlist, if you want to look that up, we're going to start it up on the Spotify page, and you can just put in the Jam Yearbook and search for playlists, and you'll find it there. Go ahead and give it a like, give us a follow. Hopefully we will have hundreds of songs on there by the time we finish this show up.
We shall have hundreds.
I think maybe
It's going to be massive.
It is
This
gonna
will
be
literally
massive.
be the soundtrack of our lives.
It's gonna be great. All right, Matt, first show. Do you want to wrap it up then?
I will. We want to thank everyone for tuning in.
Tune in tomorrow. No, sorry.
Tune in tomorrow in a world. So next time we're going to see you here for version 1986.
Yeah, thank you for joining, everybody. Peace, love, and podcast.